anybody cut glass before? I know Angie has.
No.
Okay, so today we're just going to be learning how to cut the glass safely. We're also going to be then edging each piece that you've done in copper foil and soldering it together. So at the end of the session, you will go home with a sun catcher of some sort, you know, to hang up in the window and remember this lovely, hopefully lovely morning. A couple of health and we are dealing with glass. It is sharp. Please be careful. If you get little splinters on your workstation, you've got a dustpan and brush on each workstation, please keep it clean, because the temptation if you see a splinter on any of your work bit is to go, oh, get that out of the way, and then you get cut hands, and they do stick in and they hurt. And if you get a splinter in, it will sit there for a while, and because it's glass you can't see it, so it hurts. So just be aware of keeping your workstation clean. Then we'll be coming on and we'll be using soldering irons. They get very, very hot. Please hold the correct end. Oh, don't worry, the person that taught me, I went in one night and he had a hand bandaged and I went, Ray, what on earth have you done? He said, picked it up by the hot bit. So if anything happened, you know, any burns, straight away just go and run it under the cold tap, and then we'll investigate it after that. But so, you know, those are the two things. Glass is sharp, soldering irons are hot. Please be careful. I think the best thing we can do, you've all got 2 pieces of clear glass. Now, Angie, if you want to just have a quick rerun with it, and then we'll go on and do something a bit different. But I'll show you how we do these and what we do with those. That's so you can practice cutting straight lines, wiggly lines, and you will also cut out a circle. So that will be a bit of fun. Oh yes, circles sound awful, but they're not too bad. You did a good circle last time, so you can do circles. And then we'll go on and we'll have a look at some patterns, and then you'll be choosing the coloured glass, because that's quite different from this. This is your practice piece. And I have more of it, so if you really do, just get on with it. The little tubs you've got, if you put any of your waste glass in there for me, and then I take it home and sort it out and sort out the coloured bits from a day at work and sort out the rest to go in the recycling, so it all gets recycled one way or another, which is good. Right, now the easiest thing, you've all got your piece of practice glass. To start with, you want to cut some of the straight lines. Now, I have 2 styles of cutter. The 3 in the pot are ordinary straight ones, and this is a pistol grip cutter. Have a play with both. This will be going on that table in a minute. Have a play with both, because some people find this one perfect, some people find this one better. It's personal preference, so it's how you feel with it. In the jars there is cloth in the bottom, and that has got something called cutting oil on it. So you need a little bit of oil on your cutting wheel that's in the tool. I'll talk about this one first because it's easier, but the same principle of that, you just hold it differently. So you've got a little barrel there. You can fill that with cutting oil. Majority of the cutters, when you do that, it lets it out gradually, but it lets it out too much, and you get too much oil all over your work. This is why I do the oil on the cloth, because you only need a little bit, because all that oil is doing is holding the score open, because glass is technically a liquid, and then it's easier to break. So you don't need loads of oil on there, it floods and then it makes a mess of your work and it just becomes horrible to use. Now, I'm left-handed, so I will forget and I will show you things left-handedly, but I try and remember in the beginning to show you right-handed. There are numerous ways that you can hold this tool. The correct method that I was taught in the first place is to hold it between those 2 fingers with the thumb behind. So you've got that sort of grip. Now, myself included and most of the others that I know, start off, try it, work it like that, and after a while you resort to a pen hold. So there's no issue with that. You do what's most comfortable for you. There's a little screw on the front of each cutter that has to be facing away from you. And you've also got, if you can see, a flat edge. So you ideally want to be holding it at that 45-degree angle, and that gives you that guide, and you've got your little cutting wheel on the bottom there, so you've got that bit there. So in real terms, that's what you want to be holding. You don't want to be tilting over that way, and you don't want to be tilting over that way either. You want nice upright, well, not quite upright, but 45-degree on your glass. Now, as I say, you've got various bits, you've got pens, you can draw those pieces on if you want to, or because it's clear glass, you can just put it over the top. And to start with on the straight bits, that's the easiest. So I'm going to show you. So you always have to start at an edge, and you always have to finish at an edge. You can't finish in the middle of a piece of glass, because glass has a mind of its own and it will just break and it will go all over the place. Now, I'm holding it, as you can see, like a pen, but you can do it that way, whichever way. Have a practice. So you start at the edge. Now, what you want, you've got the little groove there at the top. Have that in line with the line that you want to see. When you come on and do your coloured bits, you'll probably have marked it with pen, so you'll be following your pen line. But because this is clear, you can see through. So you start at an edge, and I generally just give a little bit of downward pressure with the thumb of the other hand. And you want to do this, and now listen, it's what you want to hear.
Wow.
It's not too much pressure, but it's enough to give you that little sticky noise. And then you get a line down your piece of glass, like that. Now, there are a few ways of breaking that. If you've got a large enough piece either side, and you can hold it safely in your hands, like that, it's as easy as that. It is easy. I'll do another one, and then I'll show you 2 more ways of doing it. Nice straight lines, nice and quick. So for this, we've all got, there are 2 versions. There's a blue version and a black version. They both do exactly the same job. You've got a little bump, and you have to put that underneath your score line, in the line of your score, and then squeeze it. And they're called running pliers. And you just squeeze it together, and it helps that score break.
So what are they called?
These are running pliers.
Running pliers.
Yeah, okay. So it's a running pliers. The other way, this will get a little bit noisy. You don't use this method very often, but you can, is the tapping. You're smiling because you remember we did it. On the other end of your cutter, there's always a little wheel, knob, whatever it is you want to call it, on the other end. And underneath your score line, so you've scored from this surface, underneath, you start tapping at one end and you tap to the other, and you do that a few times until it does. So you go like that. I'll hold it down because, and the sound will change, and then you start again. And the look of that line, so give it you want a nice fluid movement there. Yeah, it's going. There you go. And it will break off.
That was interesting, wasn't it? Because the colour changed in the split.
As it opens, yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes the sound of that changes as well. So it's all to do with that. Now, if you've got a very small piece that you want to break off, I can't safely do that because that's likely to cut my thumb. It could be done with that, but it might be a little bit small. So the other way is using the grosing pliers. You've got a curved jaw and you've got a flat jaw. Keeping the flat jaw on the bottom. This time, instead of doing it like you did with the running pliers that way, you bring it up to your score line. Gentle, and then it's a pull.
Pull.
And that's a really odd feeling. The first time you pull a piece of glass like that, it's, and it almost feels like toffee breaking, doesn't it? It's a very strange feeling. but that will break off little pieces. So if you were doing a shape and you've got a little triangle, there's no way you can get that broken off with any of the other methods except for this. But always make sure this hand is safe, that you're not going to be holding it, because if it goes quickly, you don't want to be doing that. And it's like that. When you first do this, you will squeeze a bit hard. It's likely to break, it might shatter. This is why you're going to practice. And that's where it starts. So I think to start with, cut yourself some straight lines at your first piece of glass. Practice with just do one so you know how you can break it with your hand. Try a couple with the grozing pliers, running pliers, and then try some little bits with the grozing pliers.
So what are these pliers?
They're the same as these. They're running pliers as well. That one, I put it on the top there because it's not got a mark here, so it would go on that way. And there's your little bump. So the
Oh, to do it like that.
is to hold it like that, and then use that on your hand, as opposed to that. It might work a bit better. And that way you're not having that fine movement and pushing the hands too much. So I would hold it more like that,
Okay,
and then
the
that
other
hand
hand
on
is
that
just
hand almost. To do another straight line, try another straight one,
Line.
and just to see, start it there. So rather than pushing on that, you could use on your hand if it's easier. Then you haven't got that pushing into your palm. That's it. Keep going. Right. A little bit hard at the end, and that's why it shattered. The coloured glass is slightly thicker than this, so that's not quite such an issue. But that's why we have practice.
Of course.
But it is, so it's finding the way that you can hold and hold rather than pushing into the palm, because that will probably hurt your hand even more. Because I get it in here, it's horrible, and I get a lot of issues, so I have to alter my holding at times as well. So try another straight one. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's better. Yep. That's it. And then these off. I'll do the bigger one only because it's easier to see. On this, draw it first. That way you can move the work around so it's comfortable. So you're always cutting the most, I'm not drawing that very accurately, but you'll get the idea. There you go. If the board's a bit marked and you can't see it clearly, then turn your paper over so you can see what you're doing. So again, if that was a big piece of nice coloured glass, you want to cut as much of that out as possible. You don't want to be cutting and wasting that piece. So the first cut I would do on that, I would start off at the edge, so it's nowhere near the circle, edge of the glass, and I would go up there, and then you start taking the section of the circle out. So you're doing it in sections. Then you work whichever way is easier for you. I do it this way because I'm left-handed. Back onto there and off. And then use these and pull. Back on there. And that way you're not doing too sharp a curve to risk the glass breaking in its own way. You're keeping that shape better. And actually what I'll do on that one, I'll come back on here to there. And then the last little bit. And again, not too much pressure. Yeah. If you end up with too big a piece like that. You can go back and just run a little score, pliers again, and nip that little bit off. And then to neaten up the edges, you'll be using the grinder. So it's sectional. It's bit by bit by bit, like you were doing on those sharp curves, bit by bit. If you don't mind, while I've got that here, I'll just show you. So if you've got a really curvy piece, like that, because I know I've shown Nigel, but don't know if you guys saw it. Don't try and cut it out in one, because it will break somewhere or another. So you start taking it off in bits. And then I would go, like, we'll do a little bit more out of there. And it's bit by bit. And it doesn't matter if you do it in 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 5 pieces, but it might mean you keep your curve a lot better. Up to there. Break that one off. And I'll break this one off. There. Now, I'm going to go for it now. And watch me break the whole thing. Always make sure you haven't got a splinter underneath, because that can make the glass go. If you're cutting and you've got a splinter. I'm not brave enough to do that one, so I'm going to do that in one more piece. And one more. So some of it can be quite time consuming if you want to get your curves and your angles and everything else correct. There you go. And you will get some little splinters. But again, they'll come off on the grinder. So that's how you take out a lot of sharp curves. Okay?
Getting ahead so quickly.
Try and get it so you've got on call. Just check.
You're obviously getting much more tuition than us.
No, we're not.
You come from planet Venus and we come from planet Mars. I know. Don't you laugh, because you're already framed.
I've been cheated now.
I would cut down that one.
Right, do that one.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, the ladies have gone. Ladies have gone to colour already. Now teach.
Yes, sir. What would you like to do?
Well, I know what I'd like to do. I'd like to do Sai Baba's logo of interface, which we also use on YouTube and all over the place. But I know it's going to be very, very difficult. I've hardly got the circle in the middle, let alone anything else. But how far can we get down the road using that sort of design? Can we get anywhere on that?
Before we do, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you worrying about getting something finished today?
No.
Right. Then we're going to get
what I am
good
really interested in is if you, at the end of 5, 10, wherever time it takes, if we can put that together as a logo in stained glass, and I can show it to my friends and colleagues in India in the museum, then I will be able to have a pointer in that direction. So the museum's called the Chaitanya Jyoti Museum.
Just working out the best way of doing it.
You've got all the time in the world.
We have, and we want this to be amazing.
Pucker.
We do.
That's it. Give up.
I think to get it with all this detail and make the detail look good, we are going to have to do the overlay method. So this would be one piece of glass. These would be pieces of glass. And this will be a separate piece of glass. Okay? And these will be. When we've got all of those, and you've got that shape, and we've got all that together, we can then cut the copper sheet into these intricate designs, which you stick on and solder over the top. I've done that that would also work very well in that, because you can cut that out quite intricately and make that very pretty. And then you've got all these designs, and I think that's the way to go.
Dry enough?
Does it dry? That's fine. It's just if it's wet, you lose the stickiness and then it doesn't stick. Right, this is sticky backed copper tape, and this is black backed. You can get copper backed and you can get silver backed. They all have their own uses for different things. Silver is when you're doing mirrors. And then, if you think about your star, you want your joins on these pieces to be on one of the short sides, because they're going to be on an internal side. So what you want to do is place it so it's right in the centre of that bit of glass, bit of tape. Now, you might find it easier to look down on it that way. You might find it easier to look at it that way. Everyone has their own method. Don't peel off too much of the backing at once. To there, and I swap hands and everything. So you're just running it up there, up to there.
Especially when it goes darker, you get the
polish it later.
Up to there.
Yeah, did you say to turn it?
I'll be there in 2 secs. I can hear you, nearly there. If you've done that side, we'll be turning it over and doing the other.
Yeah. There's a bit of a...
And cut that off. There's some more tape for you, but there's more if you need it. Finger and thumb, push it onto the glass. Don't worry about your corners just yet. So pushing it onto your glass, like that. Then you can pick up your little tool. I think I picked up yours, but you've got one as well. It's called a fid. And you push that over, so you get a neat corner. Two. Okay. A neat corner, because you want the copper to be showing. A neat corner. And likewise with that one, that one, that one. There. Then what you do is you push the edges down, because the better this is stuck, the better the solder will hold it. Every edge like that. Then you put it flat, and you do that. There, and flip it over.
Instantly more beautiful, isn't it?
It changes just by doing that. There you go. 3 more to go.
Thank you.
Did you see that clearly, or did you want me to show you another one?
fine.
Right. So as long as they're dry, that's nice and hot. And you clean the tip of the soldering iron. Now, you can hold it. The best way to hold the soldering iron, doesn't matter whether you've done electronics, whatever you've done, it's better off holding it like a bike handle.
Okay.
Much steadier than trying to hold it like a pen.
Okay.
So if you hold it like a bike handle,
Yeah.
and this is the blade, and you either have it flat or at an angle.
Right.
For the first stage, you're going to have it flat,
Yeah.
because all you're doing is soldering these little bits together. You're going to spot solder them together. And what you do is you put a little bit of that on there, so it's molten metal. I haven't quite got enough flux on there. You can never have too much flux. Add a load more on. There we are, soldered together. And then you can do the same on the second side. Plenty of this stuff again over every surface. You don't need to spot this surface because you've already done that. What you need to do is a little bit on there, and this is called tinning. So now you're holding it flat again, but you're running it all the way up. So you're putting solder onto that copper, all the way around the outer edges.
Okay.
I'm going to do this one for you because it's slightly different. You then turn the blade so it's that way.
Right.
And this time you have it at a slight angle. Touch that onto the glass.
You need a steady hand.
I know. And you need to practice. This is a practice thing. And I used to get so frustrated with my soldering to begin with. My husband thought I was going to throw it out.
Okay.
And that's what you're aiming for, is that slightly raised
Yeah.
little bit there, and covering your copper.
Okay.
So I'll let you carry on flat all around here,
Yes.
and then you can do that raised one down there. Then
Okay.
you turn it over, and you
Yeah.
do the same on the other.
Okay.
Now that little bit there, because the foil isn't quite even,
No, no.
two things you can do. You can either cut it off with a craft knife, or you can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, it's practice and it's learning from it.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot over the years of how not to get too cross with it, glass down onto it. Very cross. So if you hold it like that,
Okay, right. I see what you mean.
and then
And then
do it on one of the smaller sides when you're doing your start. There.
Lovely.
Whichever way it's easier for you.
Yep, right, it's fine.
Okay, right. Alright.
Just need slightly more.
You want a bit more? Yeah.
It's
How many more
just
do you want?
About that much more, I think, because that just won't go around the edge. It's just not enough.
Not quite.
No,
No,
that's
typical, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was
just
so good on
so satisfying.
So, what do you think of that lesson then, Hazel?
Very good.
You enjoyed it, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Right,
Scares me
thank
to
you.
death to cut the glass.
Who you got your name on?
these bits.
I see you all right in the shop though.
Have a look.
Do you sell your work in the shop?
So you're very hot.
No, I do
That's
sell my work,
lovely.
but
I haven't quite finished. I bought some the
Oh,
other
that's
day, and
really nice.
Yeah, it's not
You've just
mine.
done that this morning.
Yes.
Wow.
Not quite finished.